Good afternoon, good evening. Steve Walls here alongside Darren Smith. The Chiefs' final preseason game inside of G.E.H.A field at Arrowhead Stadium to defeat the Cleveland Browns 33-32. Darren, what say you about the preseason game?
This was an interesting game, to say the least.
Of course.
And it says a lot about an Andy Reid coach team and obviously you want to make your best impression. For a team to be down, 22-10, 22-3 or something like that, and for them to come back the way that they did, obviously to close out and then to come back and take the lead, basically hold off, because the miss. It's a lot about the character of the players, and the staff, and play good, get and look good. The coaching staff and what's on video, I thought she did.
Talked about doing a game show. If you guys don't know, Darren and I, we both do our pregame G.E.H.A show live, the press box, each and every Chiefs game. And we talked about this receiving core.
Yeah.
Guys that, of course, this week, tomorrow will be or Monday will be the final cut down day.
Tuesday final day, but teams can start cutting as soon as now.
So they'll get down to the final 53-man roster. One cut down day. It's not like in the past where you had of course. And so they'll get down to their final cut down day on Tuesday. We talked about the wide receivers, which guys, there's a deep wide receiver room. There's a few that needed to make an impression on today's game. Who was that for you today?
It's interesting. You talked about Smith.
Amir Marset.
It's interesting because he and Rice, especially Rice in the first half, had like 3 drop passes. But then the second half, they balled out. And we talked also about Cornell Powell. And so I think that offensively, they were you and I joked upstairs is that, they're looking home. And so if they can, now.
And an offensive line that gives the quarterback more time to get the ball to.
Yeah, and then, now granted, they were going against second, third, and fourth units, but football is still football at the end of the day. And so the fact that they were able to contribute in the manner in which they did put some good stuff on tape. So if by chance they decide to go with 6 and not 7, or however many wide receivers they end up with, I think that at the end of the day, they did themselves good.
Now, we talked about Smith Marset. He was 4 for 4, 101 receiving yards. Rashee Rice, 3 for 6, 29 receiving yards. And then Powell, he, caught 2 passes on 3 targets for 20 yards. So when I'm looking at whether the Chiefs are going to keep, a lot of people were like, oh, well, they're going to keep 7 wide receivers. That could be so, but they would have to look elsewhere on the team to cut.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and where does that go? Does that go to the running back? We saw Prince, we saw the other gentleman, Bream, on offense. P-Ron, and of course, McKinnon's not going nowhere. The looks of it doesn't look like Clyde Edwards-Helaire going anywhere. We saw Pacheco make a guest appearance. He did get his first hit, which is good.
I saw that.
He got his hit, so that counts for something. And again, we don't know the situation with Kadarius Toney. We don't know whether or not he'll be back in a couple of weeks, or as you may have predicted in the pregame show, whether or not he's going to go on IR, and miss a few games. So, we'll see how that all plays out. This is a tough position, but a good position to have when you're Andy Reid and his coaching staff, because now you really gotta dive in to see what these players can bring to the table. And look, we didn't talk about Justin Ross. Justin Ross had two touchdowns this preseason. We had one in the first game
day today, but it's still another touchdown.
But his touchdown was, now they said you just got Rossed.
Oh,
so now, so now he's got his own.
Yeah.
You just got Ross. So this is again, this is a good problem to have, and I'm not sure if I'm Brett Veach and Andy Reid, it's going to be interesting, because when they do make the cuts, I don't know what. I guess we're probably going to talk to Andy on Monday before they go dark until next Sunday. But I'm curious to know what is going to be the deciding factors that you keep this player versus this player versus this player, and so that's what I'm most interested in finding out.
Yeah, and I think that wide receiver room is most definitely the toughest spot.
Yeah.
because we got to see a lot. We got to see a lot of these guys what they can do elsewhere on the field, meaning special teams.
Yeah.
I mean, Amir Smith Marset, he's able to do punt return. He's able to do kickoff return. Well, P. Ryan did kickoff return. So if those guys are set there, then it's where else can these other guys fit into play?
Exactly.
I mean, we saw Powell. We talked about earlier today that we haven't heard Powell's name be called.
Yeah.
And today,
he got called.
Yeah. So I think we should put together like a list of what our final 53 would be, man. I think we should do that this week. Today. I mean,
we're going to have to figure out something.
Final 53.
And look, and it's interesting because on the defense side, we do know that Leo Chanel. I don't know. We were in the locker room when Andy was talking, so I'd have to go back and hear the presser to find out the extent of Leo Chanel's injury. I think he had a hip injury. So hopefully it's not too serious. And I mean, obviously you see why sometimes they don't play starters in these preseason games. Obviously you kept Mahomes out. I don't think Kelsey, Sky Moore, MVS, and Nick Bolton. So a lot of key players did not play in today's game, and I mean, and in some ways it showed, in some ways it didn't. We saw, and look, we got credit to Juan Thornhill coming back playing against his former team for the Browns, had a pick six, and that led to the first touchdown in the ball game. And so you and I, we both talked to him in the locker room. It was good talking to him. Just for a moment, switching to the Browns. What was it like for you to see Juan back here in Kansas City, and then us talking to him in the locker room?
Just talking to him in the locker room, and look, I asked Patrick. Of course, Juan got the pick six. I asked Patrick post game, just passing by, what'd you think about Juan's pick six? He's like, man, I told Shane, anybody but Juan, but it was good for him. And then just asking Juan about it, he said, pre-snap, he was talking to Shane. He said, Shane, throw me one. And Shane was Shane too. Just go through one. Of course. So Juan, I think he loved Kansas City. Of course, they drafted him.
Yep.
Injury, then came back. He didn't get to play in the first Super Bowl, but then got to play in the second one, and he still got 2 Super Bowl rings, 3 appearances. But I think he still loves Kansas City, and he's moved on. He had to take care of his family, get the money, and so I think today was the icing on the cake for him.
And what's interesting, I got a chance, and I think you did as well. Got a chance to talk to not only him but Deshaun Watson, following the game in the locker room. And I told Deshaun the same thing I told Juan. I said, look, man, I believe y'all can come back here and play in January. Now they both said, "How come y'all can't come to Kansas, come to Cleveland?"
Yeah.
I'm like, look, we both know it's a Arrowhead Invitational. You're invited to come back. If you get to your division and make the playoffs and whatever, we'll see you back here. So, I mean, I think that they have the roster. I mean, we were talking about up there in Njoku and obviously Myles Garrett and Nick Chubbs, and if they put everything together, they could be a force to reckon with in the playoffs. So.
I agree. Well, for Steve Walls and Darren Smith, remember you can catch us. What in about 14, 15 days from today?
Not even long. September 7th, 6 o'clock. Yep. We will be here back live. All the festivities, the Super Bowl banner being revealed, and all that good stuff.
Of course. For Steve Walls, Darren Smith, remember you can follow us. Follow myself at Steve Walls KC. Follow Darren Smith at Darren Smith WHB on all social media platforms. Messages. Let us know. Let us know you like our content. We'll be sure to reach back out. For Steve Walls, Darren Smith, we are out of here.